In this video, we're going to learn how to create data tables using Google Sheets. And the purpose of data tables is going to be to show and to organize data that's collected maybe in experiments, as well as also maybe some calculated data. And I have some numbers already created in my spreadsheet here. I have two different columns that I put in the column B and the column C. And I'm going to say that these are different height values that are recorded for two different populations. So I'm going to label these columns. It's important to label these columns so we know what they are. And I'm going to call this population 1. And I'm going to put my units as well. And this was measured in centimeters. And you'll notice that population 1 centimeters, this label here kind of extends over into column C. Just because it extends over into what looks like this next box, it's not actually going to get in the way of or block being able to type in this box C2. And so what I'm going to do is then type population 2 and also put the units again there as well. And if I want to be able to see the full text that I've written here, I can expand each of these different columns by moving my mouse in the, onto the line between the B and the C boxes. And this arrow changes from traditional pointer arrow to a right pointing arrow. And if I click on my mouse pad and drag a little bit, it will allow me to make that column a little bit bigger. And so now population 1 centimeters, you can see the whole part of it. I can do the same thing for the C column, but this time I'm going to double click on this line, and Sheets will automatically adjust it to make it fit. So you can either manually change the size of the column, or you can double click to make it automatically fit within that space and to show all of the text. The next thing that I'm going to do to organize my columns a little bit is I'd like these numbers to be in the middle of the column, just kind of an appearance thing. So I'm going to highlight all of these by clicking and dragging on my mouse, and I'm going to go up to my toolbar and click this align icon. Right now it's horizontal line. I'm going to select the center, and so that will move everything so it's nice and centered. So far I've got all of my population 1 and 2 and my units. One thing that is important to note is you always want to put the units in the header or the top of the column, not next to the numbers. I don't want to have 100 centimeter and put centimeters next to that. The reason for that is if I go and make a graph from this data a little bit later on, Google Sheets won't be able to graph the data because there's both numbers and letters next to one another. And so by just putting in the number and putting the unit above or in the header for this column, by putting the units here, it tells me, if I'm looking at this data table, that all of these numbers underneath it have this unit centimeters. Each of these different numbers here is representing a different person or a different sample. Usually could call this a trial, or in this case, per person. So this would be person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 different people that I sampled from each of the different populations. Again, I'm going to center all of this information like so. And so now I know that for population 1, person 1, that person had a height of 170 centimeters. For population 2, person 1, that person had a height of 159 centimeters. A couple of last things you can do to organize and make your table look nice. If you want to put an outline around that table, you can highlight the entire table and go up to this icon, which is the outline or the borders. And I want to make my entire table have an outline, so I'm going to click the outline box. And then I also want to create some separation between my titles or my headers for each column and the actual values. So I'm going to highlight these 3 boxes and click the outline box again. And so that will put a line around these as well. I could add other lines if I wanted to using the same function and just highlighting the portions that I wanted to put a line around. The last step that I want to do for my table is to give it a title. And that's really important because it tells and shows the reader what is the information that's being displayed here. And so in this case, I'm going to write my title directly above the table that I've created, and I'm always going to number my table. So if this is the first table that's going to be in my experiment report or first table that the reader comes across, I'm going to title this table 1, If it was my second table, I'd say table 2 or table 3, etc. And I'm going to name this table so that I know what it is that it's showing. And this is showing the heights per person per population, and it's in centimeters. I'm going to put the units in there as well. And so this tells me that I'm looking at the height for each of the different people that are sampled per population 1 and 2, and I also have the units here. And so this table is now correctly titled. It's got units. It indicates what each of the columns are representing, and it tells me that each one of these rows is representing a different trial, or a different person in this case. That's how you should create your data tables. The last step that I'd want to do is to make all of these boxes be one, so our title is merged across them. And to do that, I'm going to highlight all the boxes that I want to create into one box, and I'm going to go up to my toolbar and I'm going to click the Merge Cells box. And so that will merge all 3 of these cells, and so now that text will be in all of it. That's how you should be creating your tables, making sure that they have a title and each of the different columns are labeled, and make sure that you include units. Good luck.